There are 4 different types of prosthetics that you'll see quite frequent. Those different types are foam latex, silicone, gelatin, and prosthetic transfers. Now, prosthetic transfers we actually showed you in course 1. If you remember, those are the ones that we transferred onto the skin using water slide release paper. So that is considered a prosthetic. Now, we're not going to show you how to do that today since you have already seen it, but just know that that is considered a type of prosthetic. Aside from that, the gelatin prosthetic is quite similar to the silicone prosthetic. So the silicone prosthetic and the gelatin prosthetic both are going to be applied in a similar fashion. Gelatin prosthetic we're not going to show you today either because it's not used as frequent as the foam latex and the silicone ones. Now, a few key differences between them and when you're going to use all of them. They all have a lot of pros and cons to them, and we'll just start with the most popular, which is the silicone. So silicone prosthetics come in 2 different ways. They can either come plain silicone or encapsulated silicone. The idea is you should always want an encapsulated silicone prosthetic. An encapsulated silicone prosthetic is basically meaning that the silicone is encapsulated with a cap plastic around it. Essentially, it's a version of those vinyl bulb caps that's just sprayed over top of it in the molding process to make it easier to work from, and it gives you a better blending edge. Now, with the encapsulated silicone prosthetics, those you do have to keep airtight and safe, that way they don't dry out. Granted, they are silicone, but you just want to protect them from air and dirt and all those sorts of things. Now, those are the most popular ones that you will see most frequent in film and TV world and in in-person world. They are the most realistic looking, they move, they're very flexible. You can reuse a lot of them, so they're easy to buy multiples of and reuse throughout the course of filming, things of that sort. But they are fairly costly, so that is one of the things to pay attention to, is that there is a lot of benefit to them, but they are quite expensive. So when you're learning and trying things out, it is great to have them, but you might want to go for something like the gelatin, which is a much more inexpensive option while you're practicing and learning, and then build your way up to using more silicone from there. The second most popular prosthetic that you'll see is called foam latex. Now, foam latex is, again, it's a latex base. It's essentially a foam that's encapsulated in a latex piece. Those are very popular. They've been around. It's kind of the original prosthetic that exists. So those you can use for a multitude of things. They're very versatile. However, they are single use only. On rare occasion, you can use them multiple times, but they really are only meant to be used for a one-time purpose, as opposed to the silicone that you can get multiple uses out of. So foam latex, you can do a ton of stuff with it. It's very light in weight in comparison to silicone, as silicone tends to be fairly heavy. So if you're doing some sort of big prosthetic on the face or on the body, and it's going really tall or really big, or there's just a lot going on, sometimes it's better to do it in foam latex because it is lighter and it will eventually hold on better and be more comfortable for the actor, versus the silicone that's much heavier and doesn't really breathe as much. So aside from the silicone and the foam latex prosthetics that you see most often in the professional world, like I was saying, you can use gelatin and you can use those prosthetic transfers. So the gelatin, the only difference between gelatin and the other ones that you see is that they're made of gelatin, simply put. So with that, there are some challenges with gelatin. So gelatin prosthetics do have to be heat controlled. If you think of Jell-O in its sense, if it goes into heat, it's going to completely melt. Gelatin, it's not made from food-grade gelatin, but it is made from a similar gelatin, which will break down fairly easily in heat and high heat conditions. Because of that, it's more suitable for very small, very quick pieces, something that's not meant to be worn all day long, because as it sits on the body heat will warm it up, and it'll start to break down and get fairly sticky. Like I was saying, gelatin is a great alternative to prosthetic transfers or to silicone when you're first starting out and learning about prosthetics. The way you will blend a gelatin prosthetic is with witch hazel, which is just a standard astringent you can find at any pharmacy, or makeup stores will carry it as well. As opposed to the prosthetics we're using here, we're going to be using acetone and alcohol to blend away. So that's really the major difference, but you'll paint them the same way you paint silicone, and you can get a seemingly just as lifelike appearance out of it as the silicone. It's just nowhere near as durable, and you do have to temperature control it fairly well. So that's a great method when you're learning the prosthetics, and then work your way up to the more expensive silicone ones if you're looking for a ton of practice. Gelatin prosthetics are also really fun to make at home. Those are, like I said, the materials are very inexpensive to do so, so you're able to, if you want to start messing around with how to make your own stuff, that's a great method to use to do it in a cost-effective manner. That way you can just throw it away if you hate it and you don't have to worry about it. So the prosthetic transfers are also very popular within the community right now. So prosthetic transfers are limited slightly because they can only really come in a flat piece, as opposed to foam latex and silicone. You can build in big, tall pieces and to your heart's content. But the prosthetic transfers have to be made on a flat piece, so they're fairly limited as to what you can actually do with them. They're really great for small effects, like for aging or for wounds or things like that that need to be put on fairly quick. You can even do some scarring makeup with the prosthetic transfers, things like that, which will be faster at the end of the day than a silicone or a foam latex piece. And it's going to be a bit more durable as well. So prosthetic transfers will hold up a bit better under high heat and water conditions, especially, than a prosthetic silicone or foam latex will. But they can be pretty costly. The materials are fairly expensive to make your own or to even continuously purchase them. So again, it's one of those things where it's worth spending the money for the right reasons. It's definitely worth spending the money to play around with it, all that kind of stuff, but it's better to practice with the less expensive items and then move your way up and graduate to the more expensive silicone and foam latex ones. Now, you can find encapsulated silicone and foam latex products. There's a ton of different places you can buy them from. Most of them are going to be an online order. I know foam latex specifically, there's a brand called SFX that I really like. They have some really great foam latex prosthetics you can order online. They have a really beautiful catalog depending on what character you want. You can even just get little things for aging or for specific characters. You never have to just go in and do full face prosthetic. It can only just be little things if you want it to. So you can only use one or two pieces doing prosthetics. Doing prosthetic makeup does not always include doing an entire full face or full body of prosthetics. Certainly you can, and it will get a major change out of a character, but it can only just be one or two little pieces that can make a big difference on someone. Especially for today, the zombie that we'll be doing, we will be using 2 different silicone prosthetics and 3 separate foam latex prosthetics, just so you can see a variation. And that's another thing too, you can mix and match the types that you use depending on what you want it for. So silicone is much more flexible and will move and look a bit more realistic on the skin than a foam latex will. This is because the material is a translucent material and it's tinted to be close to skin, and it's way more flexible than what foam latex is. So we can mix and match them. Typically, if I'm doing a prosthetic makeup that has a full face, I'll do most of it, the face in silicone, especially around the mouth, just because it moves a bit better with the face than what foam latex will. But something on the forehead or on the top of the head too, especially, is great for foam latex. Again, foam latex is much lighter in weight than silicone is, so you can put things on the head, on the back of the neck, things like that, and it's not going to be as heavy and weighing down as the silicone will. So you can mix and match them, or you can do it all in one and keep it pretty consistent. Now, a couple other things with the foam latex. So foam latex is very opaque in color, which means you have to do a lot more painting to foam latex to make it look like skin and make it look more realistic than you do with the gelatin, the silicone, or the prosthetic transfers. All 3 of those are very flexible, they're very translucent in color, and they look much more like skin than what the foam latex does. So all of those will require less time in painting than the foam latex will. But the foam latex you can get some really cool effects out of. Now, there is an option when you're preparing the prosthetics. If you already know the person that you're going to be working on, you know their skin tone, you know the entire look that you're planning to do, you can pre-paint all of these pieces. So you don't always have to start with the piece applying it straight to someone's face with nothing on it. You certainly can, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you have a lot to do and you have a lot of pieces, it is a very smart move to pre-paint the pieces, seal them in, and then they're ready to be applied. Now, of course, if you're pre-painting your pieces, make sure that they're held tight in an airtight container so that nothing's going to be hitting them and bumping the paint off of them. But you are able to pre-paint them. I didn't pre-paint any of these because I wanted to show you how to paint them from the start and how to prepare them before you do anything with them.